Hi, my name's Brianna, and I'm here with Pastor Harman.
What up?
Welcome back to BP Real Talk.
Real talk. Big thing.
And so I'm just going to ask some questions, and we're going to get right down to it.
I didn't even know you guys had a podcast. I'm about to subscribe. It's going to be incredible. If you're listening and you're not subscribed, get to it. Make sure you subscribe. I've heard there's lots of good guests.
Yeah, I'm on the podcast, and I technically didn't even know that it was an official podcast.
Yeah,
so I will definitely look more into
some
that.
Some people might be watching on Instagram too. Right?
Well, yeah, that's where I usually watch the initial episodes. So I guess that works too. You can also watch it on Instagram, and then you'll get to see the video and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Watch everybody, figure themselves out in real time.
Move your hands, all that stuff. I feel like video is a way better experience than audio, personally. I'd rather watch something with video with terrible audio than something with, you know what I'm saying? Like I
can understand that.
I'd rather just have video with no audio, and it'd be fine. I'd be happy with that. But
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. So I'm not even, now that we have gone through the mandatory small talk segment.
Yes, let's go.
I'm gonna get to some real questions.
Real talk.
So
I like it.
Starting off, let's try to differentiate between religion and a relationship.
Whoa, we're going
with
that
Christ.
deep. Okay, all right, let's go. I like it. Going to the hard questions first. Cool.
Well, you know what? I found these questions interesting, so let's start out with them.
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference between a relationship with Christ and religion? All its structures.
Yeah.
And because a lot of people, when they hear religion, they associate it with like cult mentality and all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
So, how do you differentiate between that mess and a relationship with Christ, which sounds like a more individualistic thing versus just I follow whatever everyone else is doing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, religion is one of those things that's existed for such a long time, and there's such a rich history of different types of religions. Even within Christianity, there's been it's kind of there's the broad religions, you know what I mean, when you talk about religion, but there's also an attitude of religion. There's also religion can be something that has nothing to do with God. People follow things religiously, and the language there is almost like to the way, in the sense of just like with pure devotion. And so the best way I can describe relationship versus religion, the way that I've learned it, is that religion is man's or human's best attempt to find God, right, and to be like God, and that's what religion would be. And I would say what makes Christianity different, and why Christianity is a relationship, is that it's God actually reaching down to us and revealing Himself. And I would say that'd be kind of the big differences between religion and relationship. Religion is our attempts to understand God, and to be like God, and relationship, and what Christianity offered, I think, for me at least, was that very thing, relationship. It was the first time for me where I actually got to experience God, and that God was real, and that He communicated with us. There's so many religions in the world where God does not communicate, that there's a book that's written, and that's kind of the final words, and God never speaks again. But what's powerful about Christianity is we do have that. We do have the word of God, and Jesus' words that are so powerful and we can go to, and that are important. But we also have this aspect of a relationship, a continuous relationship, and that's what Christianity offers, is access to God, right? And for what I've seen with other religions, and even just being from another religion, I grew up as a Sikh, there's a lot of people trying to understand God, and a lot of people trying to figure out who God is, but God rarely speaks, and that's the one thing when I find when Jesus showed up on the earth, was that He came here to speak. He came here to reveal who God is, and that's kind of like the heartbeat of the Christian message. So, yeah.
So, in regards to, so you're saying almost like the religion itself is more like framework to kind of lead people to the relationship with Christ.
I think it's like our attempt, right, is one way you can look at it. And religion can also be interpreted in another way of, what are the, this would be a less Christian view, but just religion in general is how do people categorize their belief system, and that could be considered religion. And for some people, religion is just all of it. All faith is just considered religion. And so, you'll often hear like a phrase like, I don't believe in organized religion. I don't believe in somebody else dictating what I believe. But I would say the reality is that religion exists in a lot of different ways, and a lot of people are religious even if they're not people of faith. It's just what you choose to put your faith in, right? And so, for me, religion, the Bible actually talks about true religion. So there is an idea in the Christian faith of what is considered as true religion. What kind of religion is actually good? And in the book of James, it talks about taking care of widows and orphans. It's when your faith actually meets your actions that's actually pure, true religion. When it's not just about the beliefs of God, but when your beliefs actually lead to action. And you can walk out in being a Christian, right? That's when you have true religion, a faith-filled faith, right? Works that go alongside your faith. And so your faith isn't just of words, but it also leads to action, leads to works.
Sorry, I'm just taking what you said.
Yeah, you went deep really quick. I was just here to like answer questions about my favorite like ice cream flavor, and like I'm like,
what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, let's ease up a little bit. I'm like, my favorite I like cookies and cream. I like cookies and cream. I'm a classic. Yeah, it's a good vibe. I was just traveling in BC, and I feel like we went to a whole bunch of different ice cream shops, and every time, like I would do you do like a taste test. They'll give you a couple different flavors, like a small spoon, and I would like try like 3 or 4, and then I'd always just end up at like, just give me cookies and cream. I'm good. Once I know I like something, I stick with it. And so you can name any restaurant, and I'll tell you what I order every time. Like it's,
You know what makes it easier to have a default? It's not always everywhere, but I usually like the sort of salted caramel kind of flavors, or the ones that have like chocolate and something else in them. But you don't always find that flavor, so then it's like my compromise flavor is usually strawberry.
Yeah. That's a good one. I feel like if there's not cookies and cream, I usually go with Oreo, which I feel like is still a type of cookie. I don't even know what cookies and cream is. Isn't it just milk and cookies? Like cream
it's
and
essential,
cookies, right?
Yeah.
Like chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways.
Sometimes there's chocolate chips in it,
But strawberry
or like cookie dough, I guess.
Oh, yeah, I love cookie dough, too. You can name food, and I'll say I love it, because I love food. So, cookies and cream is great. But anyways, back to the real talks. Give me some more of this.
No, that was nice. That was good.
Yeah.
The next question is a bit more of my tone.
Sure.
So I was just wondering, considering, let's go more to, while the previous question was referring to something that is always, like a concern I think that is always ongoing and has been for the longest time. Now mostly referring to the current age we're in regards to like what happened with the pandemic. What changed about your approach to preaching the gospel? Like before, how were you proceeding before everything turned into a endless black pit? And then
very descriptive.
And then how are you mitigating bringing people to closer to Christ now?
And how has COVID changed our evangelism?
How's it changed your mindset on that?
I feel like pre-COVID, man, I feel like everyone was living the dream. You know what I mean? Like I used to complain a lot about my life before COVID.
Oh yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, this sucks. Like my life is ugh. And then COVID hit, and I was like, wow, dude.
Oh yeah.
I had nothing to complain about. My life was good. I could go outside. It was incredible. And so we had to isolate a couple of times. We came into contact with people with COVID, and then I actually ended up getting COVID as well. And so we isolated a bunch throughout that time. And how does it shape my faith? I think I'm still trying to figure out how it shaped my faith. I think especially in these kind of times, like when you're on, podcasts or different places, there's almost a little bit of pressure to kind of have it figured out and know exactly what you're saying, because people are going to watch and listen.
That's why I'm pushing you.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, and I'd say COVID has been one of the most challenging times for ministry, because our normal kind of just blew up, right? Like everything that was considered normal changed. And so how do you continue to do church? How do you continue to reach people when you can't see people, you can't talk to people, you can't meet with people? You know, it changed a lot of things. One leadership principle that I learned once was that our methods will change, but our message never does. And that was one thing that I kind of kept saying to myself, especially in COVID, was that our methods might change. You know, even this, like, you know, 25, 30 years ago, would people sit down in front of a camera and talk? And would people be on their phones listening to this? Probably not. You know, and so our methods may change, and how we communicate truth might change, and then the avenues of the media or whatever might change, but our message never does. And that was really encouraging to me, that in that time of COVID where things were highly stressful, things were unknown, I still had a constant, and that was, like, for me, the Word of God. Like, for me, going to my Bible and being able to read and knowing that, like, this doesn't change. You know, these are truths that are ancient, and from God Himself, and we can rely on them, we can lean in on them. That was really comforting, even when everything else was changing. You know, there's a verse that talks about how God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. That God's character, who He is, doesn't change. And that's something that really brought comfort to me in those seasons where I just felt like, I don't know what my next step is supposed to look like. And a lot of times, I don't know. Like, people like be like, how would you do this? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'd probably just figure it out, right? And I think that's okay to say. I think there's a little bit of grace there for us when we say, I don't know how I would do this. But being able to lean in on God and going, God, like, help me here. I'm not sure exactly how I would do this. And I think a lot of us are still trying to figure that out, right? Now that, you know, at this point, I don't know when people are listening to this, but right now, you know, restrictions have been lifted. And so we're kind of in a more free time, you know, where we can kind of go outside. And so things are starting to get back, people say back to normal. But, like, you know, churches are open, and we're noticing people are hesitant still, right? Like, people are having a hard time coming back to church across the board. And so I think the things that we learned in COVID were that we can always communicate our message through a lot of different methods. But there is something, I think, really cool about meeting in person. And, like, even this, I'm like, I miss this. Like, I miss being able to sit across somebody, have a conversation. Zoom sucks, dude. Can we just go hashtag Zoom sucks? Like, I just want to see, like, a lot of comments just like Zoom sucks. Because we're like, no, don't do that. There's like 100 comments saying Zoom sucks. No, but I'm just like, it was an incredible tool, but I'm just like, man, I'm glad we're kind of getting back to in person, because I think as humanity, we're hardwired for relationship. Oh yeah. And so
I was thrown off by that. Like, when I after, you know, when you're introverted, but you don't have the choice to be to like withdraw. I was so thrown off because I'd never really felt it so strongly before, the urge to see people and go out and talk and do these things, which I guess has forced me to progress my social skills a bit more. But I was very confused by that feeling.
Yeah, no, it definitely was a weird time. And so what did I learn? And I think your question was really about how to reach out to people. I've just found that people, you know, for me, it was always about living authentic. And so ever since I became a Christian, for me, my life, I want to be an authentic Christian. And so I don't want to just say with my mouth that I'm going to do these things or that I want to be a certain way. I want to live that way. And so that made it challenging in COVID when no one sees you, no one has their eyes on you. And sometimes a little bit of your true colors show, right? And it's like I remember always, like, I would always, like, when I'd be preaching to students, I was like, what if you had, like, you know, a whole year to be able to, like, read the Bible and you had no other distractions and you were just, like, by yourself, you know, like, would you actually do that? Like, would you actually want to? And it's like all of us kind of had that, you know what I mean? All of us had a year of isolation and to be alone and to be by ourselves or have a lot of, you know, kind of free time to fill. It was obviously stressful and there's other things that we're dealing with, but, you know, I always ask myself, like, did I really do the things that I preached? You know, did I actually go to my Bible and, like, read, or did I, you know, spend time with God in relationship? And I didn't as much as I'd like to, you know, and it's kind of funny, with all that extra time, I still chose to not do that. And I think it really started to show me my own character flaws and things that I need to shift in my life of how I can be a better follower of Jesus. And So I don't know. I think when it comes to reaching out to people, our methods are always going to change. You know, the way we conduct our methods are going to change. The way we reach people, like I see people like posting on Pinterest and like random, like I'm like, it's crazy. Like people, or TikTok, dude, is like
there's
going
so
off.
much random stuff going on. I'm like,
Yeah.
what happened? Why is my feed so garbage?
Yeah, like just like really cringy things, but also really good things, right? Like I've seen one of my friends blown up on TikTok talking about God, and just like he's seeing people who would never come to church, you know, come to know who Jesus is through TikTok. And so again, our methods are going to change, but our message never does. And that message of Jesus, the one that we follow, right? And so to me, that's comforting, you know, that our message doesn't have to change, even though our methods do. And honestly, sometimes you just don't know, right? Like you don't know how you're going to navigate things, but you take it like the pastor I was under at my last church, he always had a phrase like one step at a time, and I really adopted it too. Like there's something powerful about, you know, just taking one step at a time and not rushing and allowing God to speak to you in moments, and so yeah.
Well, what's up? I think there's gonna be a camera. So I'm with Harman, and today.
You didn't think there was going to be a camera?
Yeah, because it was a podcast, right? I thought usually podcasts would be like just audio.
Yeah, me and Abby talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
dude, I feel like I'm on like a segment, you know, and this is good. I feel like I just got grilled, and so now I'm with you, and I'm like ready for these hard questions.
yeah, man, it's gonna be fun.
I feel like there should be a segment where the guest gets to ask you guys questions. I feel like that would be more entertaining.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm down for that.
You're down for that? All right, Frederick. Number one.
Yes.
Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this outfit today?
I just like it. I don't know really what. I just like basically if I pick something, it's just because of like the colors I think look nice together. I don't know if they actually do.
Okay.
From your guys' reaction, I guess they do. So thank you, I appreciate it. But yeah, I like red.
So would you say that you allow other people to tell you whether something is good or not? I mean, or when you dress yourself in the morning, you're like, oh, that looks good.
I mean, like I picked what I want to do at first, and if someone says like nah, then like I bounce between like if I look at it like a different perspective, then I guess I'll change it. But if I still like it, then
you're rocking it.
You know,
Okay. So if you like it, you're wearing it no matter what anybody says.
Yeah, but also like choosing stuff that looks nice together. Yeah. And I hope I'm doing a good job at that. I don't know if I am, but
no, you look good. I don't like know the is it still called drip? Like is that the drip is fine, dude.
I guess. Yeah.
Is that what I don't know what the right anyways.
Yeah, they still call it
drip. You look good, dude. Okay, so I was telling earlier, I was saying I was in Vancouver this past weekend. Yeah. And me and my cousin, we're doing like this old man routine where we pretend to be really old. And so we just got like old man laughs, like ha 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 ha. Like we just do those kind of laughs, and I was calling him old sport. And so it was just like, anyways, we were just talking. We were like talking about language that older people use. Yeah. And that we could now use. And so instead of talking like an old like person, I was just like hello neighbor, like we were just doing this like dumb thing, and we were just like, and then we started seeing old people also talking like the way we were talking, and I was like, this is legit. Like there's a different language when you talk with different people, you know. Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like even the clothes you wear, they attract different types of people. And so it's like you're wearing red, I'm wearing red. I'm like, wow. We'd probably be friends.
We're all wearing like, I just have the white tee, but like everything else is like black and red.
Yeah, well, I got white lines on here. Yeah, it works. It's good. Anyways, you got questions? Sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
This is fine, but that's interesting. So, this question I want to ask because like I find it especially interesting because of like the current stuff going on with all the grays found in like the schools and stuff. Yeah. So, I don't know why it's worded like this. Did you think about this question, Matt? Did you word this? Did you word it like that?
Yeah, there's someone behind the camera who's like really, you know, pulling all the strings here. But
anyway, I'm just gonna say how it's read.
Sure.
Okay. Why is religion bad?
Why is religion bad?
Yes.
Yeah. These are good questions, man. I think sometimes. Sometimes we can get caught up in wrong thinking. And wrong thinking, when it becomes organized, can lead to really dangerous things. And it's not always religion. Like there obviously has been throughout history, a lot of times where there's wrong thinking that's entered into faith groups, and that's caused faith groups to do really terrible things. I don't think we can hide from that. I think we have to acknowledge that. Like, I'm looking at even, Christianity's history throughout history. There's been really heinous, terrible things that people have done in the name of Christ that Christ would never condone or do. And so I think we have to acknowledge that 100%. But even like coming from another faith, like Sikhism was born out of religious oppression from Muslims, extremist Muslims. And so, I kind of grew up just knowing that those kind of things happen, that religious, disagreements led to fights and those kind of things. But it's not even limited to necessarily even religion, I look at what happened in, Stalin's era, where there wasn't really necessarily a religion, but there was, 60 million people were killed during Stalin's reign. Yeah. And it's like, you look at China and look at Mao and, another 60 million people, and it's not necessarily even in the name of any God, but there's something that happens when wrong thinking enters into humanity groups, into people groups, that it just ends up bad. And so I think we're all susceptible to that, not just religion alone. And I'm not saying that just to make it look like, oh, just because, everybody does it, that makes it okay that Christians do it. Not at all. I'm not trying to empathize or make us look better in some light. Just because everyone doesn't make it any less of a crime or a wrongdoing, that things that have happened in history, especially with what you brought up. And so I think in that sense, religion can be bad when people are not thinking on their own. I think there's a beauty in the sense of, when power is handed off to certain groups, things can get kind of dangerous, and when a certain group has all the power, definitely throughout history, there's times that leads to a lot of destructive behavior and, a lot of sad realities. And so, can religion be bad? Yes, 100%, but the root of that is that humans can be bad, Yep. And to me, the hope is that I haven't found any answer that's better than Jesus. When I see people and I have friends like this, man, who lived really dark lives, like lived in a lot of darkness, committed a lot of crimes, like did really evil things, and I watch them meet Jesus, and their life is transformed. Like that's why I do what I do. It's not so that I can look better or be better. It's because I see God transform people's lives, and I want to be a part of that. Like that's what makes me excited about my faith, is that Jesus wants us to become new and become different than what the rest of history has done and what the rest of the world is like. He wants us to be peacekeepers. He wants us to be people who are loving, who love people. Like that was one of Jesus' core messages is love. Now love with truth as well, right? Yeah. But love. And that has to be a core of our belief. And so when religion goes wrong, and when religion goes bad, usually it's people have let go of the truths of Jesus, and they've embraced something else. And they've embraced some ideology or some way of thinking that is, in my opinion, opposite of Christ. And so in that sense, they're not even really following Jesus, right? They're not really even following Christ. And so they've embraced things that are anti-Christ. And so for me, it's a terrible thing, man. Honestly, like religion, fights, like those kind of things, like it's things that we should condemn as a church, and we do. And I know countless people who have, and I think it's starting to get even more awareness now with what's happening in our culture. But there's a lot of hurt from people by the church, and we have to say we're sorry. Like this wasn't necessarily maybe us, like the people who are here today, but it is definitely the people who in history who called themselves Christians, right? There's this famous quote, and I've always preached it, and you guys might even know it from when I used to work here, but it's of Gandhi. And
I know what you're talking
you know what I'm talking about, right? And Gandhi used this quote, and he says, I love your Christ, but I hate your Christians, because your Christians look nothing like your Christ.
Yeah, exactly.
And people argue whether that quote is actually Gandhi. I think it doesn't really matter if it was Gandhi or not. I think the message is still the same, that, for us, our goal, our purpose as Christians is to look like Christ, to be like Christ. And so when does religion get twisted is when we take our eyes off Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. I also want to add, I feel like a big part of the reason why I guess some people would be afraid of admitting or like saying that they're Christian in front of like other people and non-Christians, definitely like because of the history that Christians have, like oppressing a bunch of people. Yeah. So I feel like it's actually not gonna say it. Never mind.
Why? No, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to come off as like bad, but like of course, like there's I guess Muslim people, right? There's like obviously like ideas of them being like dangerous because of stuff that extremist Muslims done in the past, right? Yeah, exactly. But of course, I guess those crowd is like it's gonna be bad to like say that you're Muslim because Muslims still like face like even now like a couple weeks ago I think. It was in Toronto. Was it Toronto? It was in Ontario, somewhere in Ontario, right?
Yeah, the Muslim
family.
So
that Muslim family, like everyone of them got killed by one guy except for like the youngest son. Yeah, and that's terrible, right? Yeah, so they also face that kind of thing, but because of that, I feel this kind of like with younger people, maybe. Yeah, I feel like they're more accepting of Muslims, but I completely understand it because there's like a lot of stuff they have to deal with. Yeah, but against Christians, right? Because of our history, and because mainly because we're Europeans and like they were like they like dominated like most of the world for like a huge part of history. Yeah. People are like look down on Christians because of that. Yeah. Right? I don't feel like many people hate Jesus or hate God. Yeah. I feel like there's very people like that because if someone were to look at Jesus, most people would think he's like a completely good person, right? Yeah. But they just set off because of again stuff that happens in the past or Christians now that like gave them like a bad impression. So that kind of stuff only takes people away from Christ. And it's really important that we just as a church and like every single church just like address that to the best of our ability. Yeah,
and the truth is that like I didn't grow up Christian, so I kind of was adopted into this family, and so for me I was like I'll have friends who are just like, how could you be Christian? Like why would you be Christian? Like, and they're the oppressive group or whatever you want to, whatever language they use. And to me, I'm just like that's not the Christianity that I was embraced by. The churches and the people that I was embraced by are so loving, so kind. They're the complete opposite of the way the world describes Christianity, right? And I think also it just depends on which where in history we are, And that's the crazy thing is that we have the opportunity to rewrite or, create new history, and that's why, it kind of makes me sad when people are scared to say that they're Christian, because for me, when I tell people I'm a Christian, because they're like, what? Like, how? Like, they're really confused, right? Like, there's like, what? How? And I think for me, I want to live a life where when people look at me, like, they're like, wait, those two ideas of like who Harman is and what Christianity in their mind is, when you say I'm a Christian, and they're just like, well, I know Harman, and I know he's this, and this, He's not a bad dude, At least I hope not. I hope people don't think I'm a bad dude.
I don't think you're a bad dude.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But it almost changes, their perception of Christianity because they're like, hey, well, hold on. If, Frederick says he's a Christian, Abby says she's a Christian, Matt says he's a Christian, Harman says he's a Christian. Maybe I don't have a fuller picture of what Christianity looks like, right? Because we ourselves are Christianity. We ourselves are, in the kingdom of God. And then we get to write what the future will see as this is what Christians are. And so if we're afraid to say, I'm a Christian, I think it does a disservice to, one, what God wants to do in your life, but also just throughout our world. The world needs Christians. They need Christians who follow Christ, right? They don't need more Christians who are just, Christians by name or Christians just because they were born into a certain religion. They need people who have been, adopted into God's family. They need people who are, reborn as true Christians. And so I used to always say this in junior high class, you're not born a son and daughter of God, you become a son and daughter of God. And the reason I always said that is that it doesn't matter what your past looks like, and for Christianity, it does matter, like what our past looks like, and we have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be defined by what our past is. We get to set a picture of what Christianity looks like today. And I think we can do that. That gives me encouragement when I see people, especially young people, who are embracing love and who are embracing people, and still holding on to truth. Because I think I've also seen a lot of people embrace people in love, but they let go of their faith, and they let go of truth. But I think there's a generation rising up who know how to walk that line that Jesus did, where he was 100% speaking truth, but 100% walking in love. And there's a way to do that, and there's a grace to do that, and there's wisdom to do that. And I'm excited to be a part of it, man. I'm excited to be a part of watching a generation lead our country and our world into what Christianity is supposed to be and what Christianity is supposed to represent. And so, yeah, I'm encouraged by it, man. But I think we have a lot of work to do. I think there's a lot of hurt, and there's a lot of people who don't understand. But every time that we stand up and say, hey, you know what, I'm a Christian, I believe in this, there's a reason I believe in it, we can begin to change people's perspectives of what it means to be a Christian. Yeah,
for sure. It's not going to happen overnight, because it's happened hundreds of years, and it's all generational, and it passes down. All that trauma passes down. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to happen overnight, but as long as we have people like you and other people, right, that are either teaching or adopting that mindset and showing people what actually being a Christian actually means, then a couple years in the future, right, and hopefully we'll be able to say, people will be able to say or have a better view of Christianity as a whole. And
I think also if I don't know if we have time to say this, but I think we don't have to take on the weight of the sins of people. That was something that I had to learn, where I feel like oh man, I have to protect Christianity, or I have to protect our people, if you want to call it that. And for me, it was realizing, I wasn't there. You know what I mean? I did not commit these things, these sins. I have a responsibility, right? Yeah. And so, although it's not my fault.
Yeah, it's not your fault.
It's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. Yeah. Because I am a Christian, and I do want to. And so, there's a way to do that. There's a way to be able to say, I recognize what's happened in the past, and I want to change who I am and the way we operate because of it, without having to take on the guilt of what people have done in the past. Because you don't have to carry that guilt. Yeah, you didn't do it, right? But you do have a responsibility to change it for the future. And so I think there's a fine line of how to walk through that, especially when this indigenous stuff, these graves were coming up and coming out, and it's sins of the past, right? It's things, and there's obviously stuff that still happens today, but these graves, from the past, it needs to lead us into more conversation with people, and my wife has two younger sisters who are Native, and so we went to their reserve land, and we got to spend time with some of the chiefs there, and it's just there's something powerful about stepping into somebody's home and just listening, stepping into somebody's space and just listening and just being there, and I think we need to do that for a while. I think we need to be people who step into somebody's home and listen and be able to understand the pain and the tragedy that they're going through. And it was cool. It was, and the circumstance of why we had to go there wasn't cool and wasn't good, but it led to so many good conversations and relationship building. And I think we need to do that. I think we need to do a better job of that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you.
Yeah. That was a hard question, dude. You guys are, I legit thought this interview was going to be dude, tell me your favorite sneaker. What sneaker size do you like?
What's your favorite sneaker?
Dude, I love Jordans. Dude, I love Jordans. Yeah. Jordan 6s are my favorite.
Jordan 6?
Yeah.
I'm basic. I'm ones, bro.
Ones? Dude, ones are great, dude.
Ones are great, but everyone likes ones, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But 6 and 4 is my top 3.
Yeah. Those are some good shoes. Yeah. But yeah, man. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of this podcast, and man, you guys are killing it. BP Real Talk.
Yeah, let's go.
Dude, come on. Let's go.